circulated. There was an addendum circulated as well. Would someone move that the agenda as amended be approved? Moved by Brian, seconded by Mayor David. Are there any additions? Are there any deletions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carried. The agenda is approved. There is a provision for the declaration of a pecuniary interest. If you have a declaration, please do so at the correct time. Now, we have delegations, petitions, and presentations. Listed under 4A, we have kind of a mixed bag where we have an annual meeting, we have a couple delegations, and we have a couple public hearings. The first item, 4A, is the annual shareholders meeting of Brant Municipal Enterprises. What I'm going to do is allow Brooke Hayward, the CEO, to conduct the annual meeting, and she's prepared to do that. So we will commence that, and I will briefly adjourn the CDC committee meeting to allow Brooke to conduct the annual shareholders meeting of Brant Municipal Enterprises. So Brooke, you're in command.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening to council, staff, and members of the public tonight. My name is Brooke Hayward, and I am the CEO of Brant Municipal Enterprises. I'm here tonight to present the annual general meeting and summarize the report of the annual shareholder that was circulated to council. So before we get started here, I would like to introduce to you our board chair, Mayor David Bailey, and our municipal members of council, Councillor John Pierce and Councillor John Bell. I would like, on behalf of Brant Municipal Enterprises, to thank you for your continued support to the organization. We have a very strong board who's dedicated to the organization, and without you, it wouldn't be what it is. So thank you for that. And thank you for the continued support of the county staff, our CAO, Michael Bradley, and senior staff of the County of Brant for their continued support towards the organization. So for the benefit tonight, a little bit of a refresher, but also because it's the first time many of you will be hearing this, we wanted to give a brief summary before we get into the details of the annual shareholder report on the organization. Brant Municipal Enterprises was incorporated under the Municipal Act in 2013 and is a wholly owned corporation of the County of Brant. Brant Municipal Enterprises replaced the former Brant County Power Services Company and assumed all business activities and assets of its predecessor. BME is governed by a board of directors, which is comprised of the Mayor of the County of Brant as the chair, 2 municipal members as appointed by council, and 4 private directors as appointed by council. Objectives for the organization as approved by County Council are as follows, and I am going to read through these because I do think they're critical and important, and it's going to take a couple minutes to go through them. So they're as follows: to collaborate with existing county departments to identify municipal assets that can be utilized to create new revenue sources for the county, to guide the technical or operational initiatives required to maximize the value of these municipal assets, to review the acquisition of new assets or the enhancement to existing assets that will generate revenues for the county into the future, to identify new opportunities, investments, and relationships that will have positive business and social impacts for the county, to invest in business activities that can add value to county residents while creating new sources of revenue for the county, and to act as a business resource to the council and to the staff of the County of Brant. Oh, getting ahead of myself. So to summarize those objectives, County Council approved BME with the following mandate. Acting in a business-focused environment, Brant Municipal Enterprise will leverage existing and future municipal assets to grow existing revenues and will invest in new business ventures to create new future revenue earnings for the county. So now that we've provided a little bit of history of the organization, I'd like to go through 2 of the primary business units. These 2 units have served as the basis for BME in the past and continue to as we look to expand upon new business units, which we'll talk to later in the presentation. So for 10 years, Brant Renewable Energy has been providing turnkey energy generation conservation solutions to residential, commercial, and institutional clients. It's become a very trusted partner to the business community. It's been a trusted partner to our First Nations community, who we continue to do a significant amount of work for, to the municipality themselves, and to residents and businesses as well. Brant Municipal Enterprises has been recognized for its excellent work in renewable energy generation, and in 2015 was named the Renewable Energy Developer of the Year Award, something we're very proud of. To date, BRE has developed almost 4 megawatts of solar. To quantify that, it's enough energy to power close to 500 homes in our community, and this portfolio of energy is generating enough income to close to about $2.5 million in revenue coming in for the respective owners of these projects in our local community. So to highlight a few, I'm sure we'll all recognize these assets. There are 3 of the county arenas, which all have solar on the rooftops, some which are easy to see, others which are not. So we try our best to make sure people are aware that these energy generating systems are on the roof and are providing economic, social, and environmental impacts to the county. This portfolio here alone would be generating enough energy to power close to 120 homes. These projects here are projects that were done in partnership with Six Nations of the Grand River. We're very proud of these projects because they were part of an accommodation charter, and they've demonstrated the strong working relationship between the two communities, and they've provided an opportunity to further reinforce that strong working relationship now and then also into the future. So the top one there to the left, that's Mohawk College in Brantford. We did a $1.5 million retrofit on that project and completely made it an electricity net zero facility. So that facility generates enough electricity to provide the entire school with all of their electricity needs. We did a lighting retrofit on the inside to reduce all of their energy costs, as well as putting the energy generating system on the rooftop to provide revenue streams for the school. BGI Retail on the right there in the Brant Business Park, another project in partnership with Six Nations of the Grand River, a private sector customer, and the County of Brant. And then down in the corner there is the Oneida Business Park. So that project there was almost a stranded asset. It had next to no income coming in at all. And when this opportunity became available, it started to bring in about $600,000 a year and started to inject cash into the facility to start to bring in new tenants. So it was a real win for the Six Nations community. Brant Fiber Optics is another one of the primary business units of Brant Municipal Enterprises. Brant Fiber Optics provides lit fiber optic service directly to commercial and industrial clients, and then indirectly through wholesale arrangements with third-party suppliers. Currently, and I'll get into slightly later in the presentation, there's mapping of where the fiber optic network goes to, but we pass along the direct route over 500 businesses, which is really essential to the business community. As we all know, if we don't have high-speed internet, it's very hard to do business in today's day and age. So as we continue to look for opportunities to grow that fiber network, we know it will help to really inject what is required into our community to make sure we have economic growth now and into the future. And again, I'll show the maps a little later in the presentation. So in 2017, we did an update to the 10-year business plan. And in this 10-year business plan, we identified, working diligently with our board of directors and with the senior staff, to come up with new objectives for the organization, some of which encompass, of course, what we'd always been doing, but looking at opportunities to make sure we were forward-thinking and we were positioning ourselves for success into the future. So objective number 1 is to facilitate renewable generation and conservation of energy. We do that through energy generation and energy conservation initiatives. Objective number 2 is to build a globally connected community, which is being done so through the fiber optic network that is built in our community. Build a prosperous County of Brant. This objective really ties in right now to the development that's taking place with the Health Hub initiative. So this Health Hub initiative has provided really a new business opportunity for Brant Municipal Enterprise, which can provide consistent and long-term assets and revenues for the organization, which is critical because in both of the fiber, and to a lesser degree fiber, but definitely in the energy division, it's really affected by what's happening at the provincial level in terms of policy. So to ensure that we're protecting ourselves and diversifying our business portfolio, this is a really critical item to the organization. And number 4 is to ensure that we maintain a resilient organization to make sure we're successful now into the future. That provides a little bit of a summary of the history. Please feel free if there's a question, ask, and if not, I will just continue on. We can leave them to the end as well as I get into the specifics of the 2018 annual general meeting. So you can't really tell what this is from this picture, but this is the roof of the Adidas facility here in the Brant Business Park. It's a 1 million square foot facility, and this is a 600 kilowatt project that was built by Brant Renewable Energy. It's another example of a partnership project between Six Nations of the Grand River, the private sector industry being Adidas, and the County of Brant. This project was connected to the grid in March of this year and generates enough electricity to power close to 100 homes in the local community. This, believe it or not, Adidas is a German-based company. This is their first solar project worldwide. So it was a really exciting ribbon-cutting event for the local community here, and one we're really proud to have worked on. Scotland Community Centre, a new one that was completed in 2018. This is a 120 kilowatt feed-in tariff system that was built, and it provides an additional revenue for the building to help make that business case in the beginning financially viable and to help with the revitalization of the building. So what we have here is the fiber optic network. So to the left is the Kanesville fiber optic network build. So in 2018, we did a fiber optic expansion all through the community of Kanesville. So the backbone was extended, and it now provides the opportunity for all the businesses in the local community to connect to a high-speed telecommunications network, again, critical to the economic development requirements of any business. And also, again, through third party, it now provides fiber in that area to do point-to-point and to work wholesale arrangements with third-party residential suppliers. To the right here, it shows the fiber optic expansion project that took place in the community of Scotland. So we built the backbone down into Scotland, connecting to the Scotland Community Centre, and we're currently looking for opportunities to take that and do point-to-point to some of the other communities, including Oakland. Just to the top there's another expansion that took place just recently, and that's the new Addie Dassler Loop in the Brant Business Park, providing opportunity for all the new businesses to connect to the network. If you were to look at the entire network here, this network provides up to 500 businesses in the local community the opportunity to connect to a high-speed, affordable broadband system, which is really something to be said for a small municipality, and we're very proud of that. We're currently looking for opportunities to expand the network into underserved areas. We recognize, and we know you've all heard when you've been out and you've gone door to door, that there's underserved areas in the County of Brant, and we're very sensitive to that. So we're working to find creative and unique solutions, whether that's through the SWIFT initiative, it may be, it may not be, or other creative solutions to make sure that we're finding ways to connect all of the residents and businesses in the County of Brant to high speed in some fashion or another. We know that's very critical. To summarize some of the social, economic, and environmental benefits of Brant Municipal Enterprise, through Brant Municipal Enterprise, there's revenue generation for the shareholder. That comes in a number of different fashions. It comes through the project management that we do at Brant Municipal Enterprise and the margin we make on that. It also comes through the ways in which we find creative ways like these solar projects to look for revenue streams for the county. We've also worked on conservation initiatives for all of our clients, including the municipality. And 2 years ago, we did the LED streetlight retrofit throughout the County of Brant, saving over 50% on your electricity costs. We work really diligently to create strategic partnerships within our community. Those are partnerships with our First Nations neighbors, with our municipal neighbors, with our business community. We know it's critical, and we prioritize it, and we look for opportunities to always be working together to the benefit of our community. All of this creates local green jobs. We're working right now as well to build an electricity net zero municipality that may be one of the first in Ontario. And what that means exactly is that our municipality generates enough clean energy to offset all of our municipal use. We're very close to doing that, and I would say that we're about a year away if we get a couple more projects to making that happen, something we should all be very proud of. Again, we're working very diligently to make sure we're a globally connected community that's providing the high-speed telecommunications that our community needs. And again, we're going to work to make sure that we have the project development support that's required for the county for any unique initiatives that may come along the way, whether that be a health hub development or social housing or other things. We are positioned to do that. We are positioned with a governance model. We are positioned with all of the project management expertise to do unique projects like that add value to our shareholder and add value to the residents of the County of Brant. Future outlook. So just to summarize, we're going to continue to work closely with our shareholder to identify new business opportunities which add value to the municipality and community stakeholders alike. We'll focus on new business ventures with reliable long-term revenues, like the Health Hub. We'll explore new opportunities in the green energy marketplace. We recognize there's sensitivities right now with political changes and policy changes, but we believe that green energy is here to stay. We know conservation is a requirement, and we are set up and we are prepared to take action on those items when they come available, and they are coming available. Right now, in fact, just today we broke ground. We're installing a 100 kilowatt system on the Six Nations Fire Hall, which is an exciting project for all of us. A unique story on that facility is that facility was actually built, their fire trucks for that facility were bought using the revenues from the Oneida Business Park solar project and some of the others. So solar helped to inject and make that building happen. Now they're putting solar on the roof. So it's a real flagship project that we're very proud to be working on. And we'll continue to pursue fiber optic network expansion initiatives, whether that be through SWIFT or other unique funding opportunities. We know that there's underserved areas, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure we're getting to them. So at this point, I would just like to draw our attention to the statement of income for 2018. Brant Municipal Enterprise recognized net income of just over $200,000. Although the net revenues were less than forecasted, so were the expenses. So the net revenues still remained healthy, slightly above the 2017 year. And we believe the organization is positioned to continue to be successful, both financially, to add value, and to continue to be a real component to help the municipality of Brant be the best it can be. So at this point, there's an item I wanted to just declare here. As the CEO of Brant Municipal Enterprise, it's my responsibility to ensure we confirm to the shareholder, and I'm going to just read this. As per section 8.3 of the shareholders declaration for Brant Municipal Enterprise, this document will serve as confirmation to the Council of the County of Brant that to the best of our knowledge, Brant Municipal Enterprise is acting in compliance with terms, conditions, and obligations of the shareholder declaration. This has been signed by both the chair and myself, and I'd like to turn this over to the clerk. And at this point, that concludes the formal presentation for the 2018 annual shareholder meeting. I'll open it up to any questions from the floor. Thank you.
Thanks, Brooke. Thank you for the great presentation. This is something I've been looking forward to for 6 months because I've never really understood all of what is going on with Brant Municipal Enterprises, and this was a great summary. Thank you. And congratulations on the success of these are great success stories. My question, you touched on the word social housing, and I know that Brant Municipal Enterprises has gotten involved in the project management of the Health Hub, so involved in building. One of the things that our residents would value within this community is some options for affordable housing specific, not exclusive, but including for seniors, but not just for seniors. Is that something that you could see fitting in with the objectives of BME, and what might some of those steps be in the future that we could consider?
So at a high level, in September of this year, we'll be having our strategic planning session with the board, and we'll be talking to items like this, looking at what type of initiatives should we be getting involved in. I think there's general consensus among the board of directors that we're positioned to take on unique asset development, real estate development projects like this that could provide consistent and long-term revenues for the community. So I would say that, you know, without committing us to it, that yes, there's interest there. The county CAO and I continue to talk regularly, and we know that this has been an item that's come up, and we recognize that it's something that we need to learn more about, and there may be opportunities to do that at some point in the future, as we look before even the shareholder strategic planning session to see if it's something that aligns with our objectives. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brooke. Three questions. First one, hypothetically, I have a business and I want to do net metering, so I call up BME and I say I want net metering, and do you offer storage with that? Is that an option?
We could, yes,
Okay,
yes.
because, yeah, I'm glad, because that's, I think something that's getting better and better as time goes on, so good.
We can provide tailored solutions for really any energy generation or conservation project. Yep, that's correct.
I didn't know if you had the storage option going. Okay, good. I think, hopefully, SWIFT will be doing their RFPs for procurement in our area, in our county. Are you guys ready for that?
We are. We're pre-qualified.
I know that.
As soon as they release, we're ready to respond.
Okay. You know, they're obviously doing it in Norfolk, Lambton, and Wellington, and I think there might be some bugs, so I'm actually kind of glad we're not on the first wave. And then the last question, if we've requested a delegation with the Minister of Energy regarding maybe the low-level hydroelectric at Penman's Dam, would you be willing to help out with the presentation?
I would love to join, yes.
Okay. And there's another big thing I'm thinking of, but I'll talk to you about that another time.
Anytime, and that's something I wanted to mention earlier. I know I only have a limited amount of time, but at any time, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to spend some time and go through further detail if there's any questions that don't get addressed today.
Mr. Chair?
Oh, sorry. Yes. Oh, I'm the chair. I'm sorry. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Councillor
one of these.
LaFerriere. Yes. Yes. Okay.
In the fall, just to hop on to Councillor House's affordable housing piece, in the fall, I plan on introducing a motion around an affordable housing reserve fund, and I'm wondering if it might be appropriate to maybe send the proposed motion to BME for review, because one of the factors of the reserve fund would be finding revenue sources that are naturally occurring and repeatable that don't bite into the taxpayer. So is that something that BME might be open to receiving at a next meeting?
Definitely open to receiving it, and it's something that I can continue to talk to the county CEO about as well to see if he thinks it's well aligned in our board, but definitely.
Thank
yes. Jim Gatward?
Thank you, and thank you for the interesting presentation, and I'm glad we've done very well and improving every year. You mentioned that at the Oneida Business Park, and they made $600,000,
Correct.
and I'm sure they were very pleased about that. And I recall the BGI and the Adidas project, their share was 15%, and our share and the company's share was split by certain percentages. What were the percentages, I've forgotten, for those two projects, Oneida and Polytechnique? What was the county share? And do you know what we made from those projects?
The county's share is 10% in the Oneida Business Park, so 10% of that, $60,000 roughly. For the Polytechnique project, That's an ownership project strictly by Six Nations Polytechnique. It's the college themselves, so they actually received a government grant for that project, so they own it wholly.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Councillor John Bell?
Thank you, Brooke. You have a map in the report showing the backbone of the fibre optic system. It runs right the way through the centre of Burford. I'll just use Burford as an example. What can you say to the residents of Burford about how BME might be able to help them rather than helping businesses?
Sure. So what we're looking at doing right now is we have someone going out door to door to the business community. We're situated to be able to do that. In terms of the residential community, we have strategic third-party relationships that are better suited because they have the back house to provide those services. So right now, what we can do is we can encourage our third-party suppliers to make sure they're canvassing those areas, to make sure the residents know that there's opportunities to connect to the fiber optic network in their community. Any other questions? No? Oh, Councillor Joan Gatward?
I have one more.
Sure.
Since you just made that statement, it brought to mind. Years ago, Bell Canada buried a fiber optic cable right through the community of Oakland. Yet I can't get good service. I could not open my package via my iPad because the download speed was so low that it just timed out each time I tried. Is it possible for SWIFT or BME to work with Bell to bring it from Scotland down to the Oakland area or not?
It's possible to do it. We wouldn't even need Bell in that case. We could likely do it ourselves as Brant Municipal Enterprise. So that's what we're looking at doing right now. We have Oakland identified as an underserved area. So we're looking at how to best get there. So whether that be through SWIFT funding or through other unique, offerings, we are looking to get our network to all the areas within the County of Brant. That ensures that we own that asset, being Brant Municipal Enterprise and ultimately shareholder, rather than Bell or another third-party service provider owning the network.
Thank you, because I can't even get Silo, so thank you.
You're welcome. If there's no other questions, that concludes the annual shareholders meeting. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Brooke, and then that means I will reconvene the CDC committee meeting, and gives me the opportunity to thank the chair and our council board members and the CEO for the fine work that BME is doing.
Thank you.
We have a couple of items that we have to deal with at this table with regard to the Brant Municipal Enterprises, and that's to receive the reports. Would someone feel comfortable in moving the recommendation that is listed on the agenda? It's moved by Brian, seconded by John Bell. Are there any questions? All those in favor? Motion is carried. The reports are received. Now, the next item on the agenda is the County of Brant, Station Number 1, Paris, 2019 Firefighters Association of Ontario Convention. Chief Emerson is here. I'm going to ask Chief Emerson to come forward and introduce his compatriots and turn the floor over to John and his men and present the delegation.
Very good. Thank you very much, council and staff and guests, to allow us in here this evening to do a short presentation. What we're planning on doing here is we want to enlighten you as to what's going on with regard to the FFAO convention that is taking place here, basically situated at the fairgrounds, coming up the last week of July and into the long weekend. I'm going to turn this over to my co-chairs of the committee that are looking after this, Firefighter Mark Robinson and Firefighter Matt Amy, and they'll give you a brief rundown of what we're all about, what we're doing, and hopefully ask some questions.
Yeah, so thank you very much. We're very pleased to be here tonight. We've had the opportunity to present versions of this We went out to all the county fire stations, so all of our fellow firefighters were aware of what we were doing, and we felt it was important to bring it out here tonight. Part of it, we seem to have some issues. Anyways, we had to pare down what we were presenting tonight, so a lot of everything I said is out. I don't know what that says, but Mark will be providing most of the presentation tonight.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us tonight. As John said, I'm Mark Robinson, firefighter with Station 1 in Paris. We're doing the FFAO convention this coming year. So just a little history on the FFAO, just so everybody knows what it's all about. So the FFAO has a proud history that dates back to August 29th, 1899, which makes it the oldest continually running fire department association in the province and one of the oldest in the country. The Paris Fire Brigade was one of the founding members. As you can see, we signed up at the inaugural meeting in 1899. So we have a proud history with the FFAO. Having some technical difficulties here. I think we're set to an auto time instead of being able to change it on my own. But anyways, Paris, Ontario hosted the 10th annual convention in 1909, and it was a significant time for the FFAO as it changed its membership to be available to all firefighters in the province, not only volunteers, but paid, partially paid, and so on. This picture was taken in front of the old Paris Post Office. It's the oldest known FFAO photo in existence. So Paris has a proud history with the FFAO. Because of that, in '99, just ahead of amalgamation, the Paris Volunteer Fire Department was approached and asked to host the 100th anniversary convention of the FFAO. So it was actually the 98th convention, as they took a couple years off for the war, but we celebrated the 100th anniversary of the FFAO. That convention in '99 was one of the largest and most memorable in association history. We had over 400 campsites sold, and a lot of people attended that celebration. Very memorable, as there was not quite a tornado, but a downburst that went through, so everybody remembers Paris as the bad weather convention. So once again this year, the County Brant Fire Department Station 1 Paris Firefighters Club was approached to host another anniversary celebration of the FFAO in the 120th anniversary. So convention is an annual opportunity for firefighters to come together to network, learn, and compete. Convention also allows us to reflect and pay respects to those that have made the ultimate sacrifice over the past year. So commencing July 29th of this year, hundreds of firefighters from all across Ontario will converge on the town of Paris to take part in this convention. So the convention is 8 days, starting July 29th. It says it goes to August 6th. It pretty much wraps up on the 5th, but throughout the week we've got training courses happening. We've got camping up at the fairgrounds, so everybody will be coming in, staying in campsites, participating in the courses. As we go through the presentation here, it'll talk about some of the other events that are happening throughout the week. So we have 6 great training courses that are happening that week. It says 8 here, but there was some low enrollment on the last 2 there, so they've been eliminated, but there's 6 courses that will be running. Some great training that's provided by some of the best instructors in Ontario, and they'll be teaching firefighters from the County of Brant as well as firefighters from all over the province. So our big event on the weekend of August 3rd and 4th is a firefighter muster event. It's a public, free, family-friendly event. We will be accepting donations through a boot drive, but there's firefighters games and competitions, an antique truck muster, So we've got the truck muster that's happening with antique trucks from different departments throughout the province. There's also going to be kids' games and obstacle courses that happen throughout that weekend event, as well as food trucks on site for all of the hungry people that come out to see us. Our station in Paris is the founding members of the Ontario 8 Red Knights Association, so it's a motorcycle club for firefighters. They're going to be doing a show and shine and meetup at the fairgrounds during that event. So for any motorcycle enthusiasts in the area, you're welcome to come out and join us with your bikes to show them off during that event. There's also a craft and vendor show. We're proud to say that we've been able to kind of resurrect that show. It's had low attendance in the last few years, but we've actually almost sold out all 36 booths at this upcoming convention, so that'd be great for everybody to come out and check out what everybody has to offer. Through partnership with CP Rail, we're also going to be hosting the Practically Hip, which is Canada's #1 Tragically Hip tribute band. So that concert's taking place on the Saturday night. $30 a ticket, invite only. So if you know one of the Paris guys and would be interested in coming to that, let us know. Also, a big one is the Memorial Parade, August 4th, at the Cenotaph here in downtown Paris. We'll be doing a march from Kingsward Park down to the Cenotaph to honor those firefighters that have passed away in the last year. And unfortunately for us in the County of Brant Fire Service, one of our own members, District Chief Dave Monkhouse, passed away this past year, so his name will be read at that memorial. As you've seen some of these flipping by here, we have some merchandise that we're selling throughout the event as well. We've got challenge coins and a convention pin that went by. That's all been sponsored by GFL. Just some good commemorative collector's items. We also have our sponsorship program that we're running. This is a fundraiser for our club and our association to be able to put money back into the community like we have in the past. For example, in the Brant Sports Complex, the Lions Park Field of Dreams, and the Dam Lighting Project, and Paris Cenotaph, to name a few. So we do have social media. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Paris 2019 FFAO Convention. Any questions, you can do the same address at gmail.com if you'd like to reach out to us. Just to go back to the sponsorship, as it kind of scrolled past there quickly, just as it is a fundraiser for us to go back into the community, if there is anybody that themselves or knows anybody that would be interested in supporting us, that would help offset the costs of running the convention so that we can raise more funds to go back into the community. So if you can get that to stop, Heather, I don't know how to. Unfortunately, I had it on auto repeat and forgot to take it off. So hopefully I didn't skip through any of that too much. But if anybody has questions, myself or Firefighter Amy would be glad to answer your questions.
Okay, let's begin with Mark and then Joe.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I'm so happy this is happening here. I'm so happy it's happening in Paris, and congratulations. Working with first responders, I know there's a lot there, and that solidarity and togetherness that happens throughout Ontario is wonderful. In that spirit, I'm going to ask a question that you don't have to answer, but maybe just think about if it's appropriate. I know that our neighbors in Six Nations and their fire department are having a really tough time. I know that Brant is supporting and being very supportive of that. I'm wondering if there might be any opportunities with this coming together of all these different firefighters in Ontario to do anything that might be helpful for them as well, just in the spirit of reconciliation and the difficult time that they're going through. And again, I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot or get an answer right here of an idea, but maybe that's something to discuss amongst yourselves. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and I'm sure through Chief Heyman, we'd be able to reach out to Chief Miller and maybe even send something like this out to them so they're well aware. Part of this Mark and I did present to our mutual aid meeting, which includes the County of Brant, the City of Brantford, and Six Nations. So we were able to, through that association, make them aware of it. I know some of their membership were just learning of this weekend, actually. I took a shift down there this weekend, so it was very nice to do that too. But yeah, that's a great idea and something we can follow up with Chief Heyman to get that information.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Joan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the delegation, you're looking for sponsorships and you're holding this at the fairgrounds. Do you have to pay to use the fairgrounds?
Yes, we do. There is.
And was there anything budgeted for this specific event in the fire budget, or are you looking to just fund it from money you've raised as an association?
That's correct. So there is the camping component to it, and we do have registration fees for that help us with it. Training, there's fees, but they're reduced because we certainly want to encourage the membership of the FFAO, the firefighters in the province, to take advantage of these great opportunities and local opportunities. But certainly the sponsorship is something we've really been working on to offset our costs. And then any extra money, any money raised through this event goes back into the programs we support within the community and the initiatives that are within the community.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time, I'd like to propose a motion.
At the appropriate time.
Yeah.
This is not the appropriate time.
Right.
The appropriate time now is to, unless there's any further questions, to thank the delegations, and it would appear that the convention is in more than capable hands with station number 1. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Sorry, there was one thing I did skip there. There is a lot of events that are happening throughout there. There's an opening ceremonies, an AGM on Saturday, as well as the Memorial Parade. Official invitations will be coming to all council members and local dignitaries. But you're all going to be definitely welcome to come out, see everything that's going on, and become involved with the convention. And as I say, those actual invitations will come through to you hopefully in the next few days. And other than that, we just hope to be able to promote the County of Brant and showcase it to everybody that's coming in from across the province.
Thank you again. And that concludes, I believe, the presentation. Thanks, guys. Good luck. Our next delegation is here, Dave and Roxy Moffat, with regard to abandoned cats.
Thank you for giving me your time this evening. I am very proud to be a resident of the County of Brant, not only for the presentations that I've seen here tonight, but for what I see every day. And that's why I've come to you, because I feel you have the power and the influence to make a difference. As my letter stated, I am here to reach out to you for your guidance, suggestions, and what actions you can take to help reduce the number of people who abandon their pet cats. As I said, I am very proud of what the county has already done, our animal control and our counselors, but I continue to see more cats being homeless. It's clear that more proactive measures are necessary. I believe that you can make a significant difference. I'd like to take a minute for you to look at a short fun quiz entitled, Do You Know? Test your knowledge and understanding. My husband will pass it out to you. He also is there for the trapping and everything else as well. And we will take up the answers together. I'm sure most of you know these answers, but unfortunately a lot of people do not. So the first one, how many times a year does a cat have kittens? B, 2 to 3 times. How many kittens are usually born in a litter? A, 1 to 9. What age does a cat start reproducing? C, females 5 to 6 months, and males 4 to 7 months. This is the key one that unfortunately a lot of young people in particular get that free kitten, and they don't realize that that kitten at 5 months is going to be pregnant. That male kitten at 4 months urine is going to start to smell really bad. They're going to start spraying, and both male and female are going to be yowling and carrying on and wanting out, and it's very difficult to keep them in. But if people don't realize that, it can come upon them very quickly. What is the average age lifespan of a cat? C. Inside cats 12 to 15 years, although many live into their 20s. The outside 2 to 3. How many cats can one pair of kittens produce in 7 years? Now this is the main focus of this one. So you can guess it's B, 420,000. Other ones that I have on the board here to illustrate might go down as low as 320,000, and then it just goes up exponentially. What are some of the benefits to the cat of being spayed and neutered? D, both A and C. Decreases cancer and physical stress from mating and having litters, as well as decreases their injury and disease, so they don't want to roam. So a lot of people don't realize that, and then they complain about the vet bills. What are some of the benefits to cat owners of having their cat spayed or neutered? All of the above. Cats will pay more attention to their owners because they aren't thinking of mating. There is no strong odor from the urine of a male, disappears at any age. And you may not know this, but actually the answers are on the back, and I researched it. These are not just mine answers. Purring lowers stress, reduces blood pressure, and aids in healing bones and muscles. Removes mating behaviors of fighting for territory and wanting outside. A lot of the nuisance behaviors that none of us want to have. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't know some of those things, as well as what I put in the letter about the benefits of spay and neutering. My husband and I have been involved with the homeless cats for over 20 years, but more publicly in the last 8 years with activities that we have in the pictures that you can have a look at after on the board. TNR for the County of Brant for 3 years, from 2013 to 2016, with a grant of $2,000 per year for 3 years. Christmas parades for 2 years in Paris and Burford, holding bingos in Burford and Paris, having an information booth in springtime in Paris, speaking to high school students and Girl Guides with shelter-making activities and shops. We put up posters, made pamphlets to distribute. We were involved in bringing the Welland Mobile Spay-Neuter Clinic to the county this year, where 30 females were spayed and 9 males were neutered in one day. And it was heartwarming to see the appreciation that the residents had for being able to have that service brought to them. Knowledge gives people power to make responsible decisions. With all that we have done, and we have not done as much as other groups that were before us or have been created recently in the city of Brantford. There are presently 5 groups in the city of Brantford, in addition to the Brant County SPCA. Along with us, there are also many responsible people, residents in the county of Brant. TNR has occurred in Mount Pleasant, St. George, Burford, Paris, Onondaga, Oakland, Scotland, and the farmland in between. All of these groups are usually full to capacity, yet another reason to educate people. The people doing this work are exceptionally responsible, with caregivers daily donating their time, energy, and hard-earned money, being responsible for our homeless community cats. Yet there's often a negative response from our community, such as Crazy Cat Lady, as well as being criticized for feeding cats as part of a TNR program. And we've normalized seeing a homeless cat in our society, making it acceptable. At one time, this seemed okay because there were not many. But now, and in the future, with our increased medium to high density housing areas, a homeless cat should not be deemed acceptable. Knowledge about their behaviors and reproduction makes it clear that there will be more if we do not do something now. It's a great time to change the culture around the whole issue. Putting up signs in businesses that states that we expect responsible pet owners and give people the knowledge to be responsible pet owners keeps the issue at the forefront of people's minds in their very busy lives. Just like they need signs for most other things that we think everyone should know, we all need reminders. And if it's not in front of everyone, it's soon at the back of their mind. TNR is helping, but it occurs after the pet cat has been abandoned. So I'm sorry, anyone with I have no artistic ability, but there is one house up there with the cat in it, and that's what I would like us to address, is when the cat is already in the house, instead of 1 year later when there's now 12 cats, and we have had calls in that regard, that, oh, last year we only had 1 cat here, and now we've got all these kittens. 2 years, 67 cats. 3 years, 376 cats. Not all of them may live, but a fair amount do, and they start reproducing at 5 months or 4 months. Our one suggestion that I have had is that the businesses where they have food or litter or cat supplies, that they put up a list of the benefits of spay and neutering, because I haven't seen it anywhere. I'm asking you to give people the knowledge through your businesses or people that you know to have this in front of the rest of the population. I know that animal control in the county is being worked on by capable counselors and county staff. I've been fortunate to work with your county staff, and they have been very supportive. So now is a great time to be proactive and show a unified message that we are a responsible pet community. I believe that giving people the knowledge will help them, and it's certainly, knowledge never hurts anyone, but has the potential to help greatly with future animal control. I hope that you can see why this is overpowering to me and overwhelming to both my husband and I and those we work with, and why I need your help. These cats are not my cats. They are community cats. I would like everyone to have the same response to people who do not spay or neuter their cat as they would do if they left their pet in a hot car. It is cruel. It takes longer for them to die, but it does happen. Some people say it's my choice to help people TNR and to bring awareness. But I'm only being responsible. If I did nothing, I could not call myself responsible. I know that cats do not just disappear. I know that males will travel miles to mate, but females establish a territory. My husband and I, with many other residents, have taken responsibility, but I am now asking that everyone takes that responsibility further so that the issue is addressed while the kitten is still in the home, before TNR is needed. We cannot continue to TNR as much in the future as we do due to family obligations. But I have faith in our counselors and in our county staff. I also have faith in the business community to do what is best for our county. I leave this in your capable hands to take the suggestions on the board. There are already signs that are on the internet because we are not alone with this issue. There are people all over abandoning cats. They don't understand the consequences or what is happening. So cute little signs like saying proudly spayed. Other ones with the Friends, Purry Cat, Soft Cat. There are ones with cute little pictures with them that indicates all of the nuisance behaviors that I'm quite sure none of us in this room would want to have. So I leave this in your hands. I'm not here for your final decision. I'm here to leave this with you and take my suggestions or your own to educate all the other residents. Thank you. Are there any questions or clarifications?
Okay, just before we go to questions, the board that I see there, I'm going to ask you perhaps just to leave that if you can. We're not going to keep it, but perhaps, and it may even be placed out in the lobby, and maybe it can travel around some of the service offices as well, but I don't want to steal it on you.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. I also have, not the whole 800 pictures of each cat, but I have quite a few more if anyone needs them. They are ours. Thank you very much.
Okay, and obviously, public awareness is a big part of what you do, and that's why you're here this evening. So, are there any questions? First, David, and then Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the presenter. No, I appreciate your devotion and sincerity to the cause. Funds are always limited, as you know. If you're given a limited set of funds, it sounds like, and I'm asking you from your presentation, that those limited funds would be better spent on educating humans rather than, say, spending it on the spaying, neutering. Is that the correct interpretation?
Not necessarily. It needs to be divided. The humans need to know the benefits so that they can spay and neuter their cat. And part of that knowledge is where, at the moment, until we get our own low-cost spay-neuter clinic, which I feel is in the works from talking to Robin Kuchma and other people, that we could always get in the Welland again for their low cost. There's low cost at East Village Animal Hospital, Kitchener, 20 minutes from here on Weber, been there. Hamilton also has a low-cost spay-neuter clinic, so does the Six Nations. The Six Nations, however, I think is only for their residents. So it is both. But mainly, I guess, in your thing, the first is to educate the people so that they understand the importance. As far as funding go, we've been doing this without funding. And we don't have the wonderful locations that the businesses have, simply to put up a piece of paper. That would be where people can read it. And if you have other ideas to take it further, because I'm kind of run out of those, but I'm open to any, and if I could help, I gladly will.
Okay, Steve has a question, and then Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. So, piggybacking on that a little bit, it sounds like one of the biggest takeaways from your presentation is you really want to get the word out to spay and neuter your cat.
Yes.
And that's something that we might be able to help with individually. We've all gone through a campaign within the last year and have had some experience with communicating to large groups of people. And you mentioned that we could grab some graphics off the internet if we wanted to try and share this message. Do you or your group have a specific graphic image that you could share with council that we could try and put out there just to re-emphasize the message?
No, I haven't, but I have some examples up here because everyone has their own level of comfort. I didn't put any up there that had any negative. They're kind of all fun. This is the information. They're cute little things with the cats with the Band-Aid over their eye because the males have been fighting, or there's a cat holding its nose because it's stinky. The fun type of things. And I think this can be a fun type of thing, but I think we really need to have it in front of people. And as Greg Bergeron always told me, keep it positive, Roxy. It's much nicer to keep it positive. Then there's lots of negative stories, but keeping it positive, those are the good stories that And it is. It's a positive thing that everyone can do. And it shouldn't, in my mind, take a lot of funds or a lot of energy, but nobody talks about it. It's not out there. The culture is like, oh, you have cats? Oh, you know. My husband saves me from usually being called the crazy cat lady, but I can be proud to be that too.
Okay, Mark has a question, and then John.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. We were discussing this a little bit in a phone call recently, and I was just thinking as you looked at your sign, or showed us your sign and said, I don't have the artistic ability, I'm wondering if this might be helpful, and I just want your opinion. If we were to make a motion to have the county communications department help create proactive professional signage with the County of Brant logo about this issue that could be shared with businesses if they so choose, because we can't make businesses put up signage, but if they so choose, if it's professional and positive, they may opt in, about the benefits of spaying and neutering and some of the local resources. That could then also be put on the county website to be made available to others to print. And then also, if we have the file, we can adapt it when we get a low-class clinic and things like that to update it. Would that be something that would kind of help the cause?
That would be wonderful. Yes, thank you.
John?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mark kind of alluded to it a little bit in regards to, we could go to businesses and ask them to put something up, and not to say that they would have to or want to, for that matter. And you spoke earlier, you touched on like the pet stores and that type of thing. If you look at it, and again, don't get me wrong, I agree with what you're doing here, but if you look at it from a pet store point of view, they might not be for the spay and neutering because that kind of takes away from their business. You know what I mean? So it's kind of it's a tough double-edged sword there, and I think maybe, Mark may be onto something if we can get it onto more social media type of thing than into a storefronts, because I think that would be a tough sell.
Actually, Pet Value was at the low-cost spay-neuter clinic. They're affiliated with them. And PetSmart also offers funding for anyone for low-cost spay-neuter clinic. It is such a large number of cats we're talking, no one's going to lose their money. And if the cats are healthier and live longer, they are going to be spending more money. And the vet clinics themselves, I do have local vets on board, but with that, people have to understand that the low-cost vet surgery does not give all the benefits to the cat. There isn't the pre-blood work given to find out how the cat's going to respond to the anesthetic. There probably won't be intravenous fluids given during the surgery. There's differences that a lot of people don't realize, and they just think they're getting ripped off, and they're not. The vets are on board to help out where they can, and they are not losing their clientele. This would probably target the clientele that they wouldn't otherwise see, because people have to qualify for a low-cost spay-neuter clinic. They have to prove that their income is below a certain amount per family household. And they do that at EVA, and they did it at the low-cost spay-neuter clinic that was held at the Silaps Arena. So then those people with their cats will probably go for annual vaccines because they want them to stay healthy, but they need to get that foothold, because it's got to be overwhelming for a young person to all of a sudden their kitten is pregnant, and what do? And they call up and it's $300 plus for the spay. And actually, it's $100 before that, because the vaccines, for the best interest of the cat, should be given 2 weeks before. But that is a visit and the vaccines. So it isn't the best for the cat, but for those on that income, it's giving them that done so that they can have a cat that's going to pay attention to them and not be giving them nuisance behaviors that they're going to want to put them outside, or they'll escape outside.
Thank you.
Okay, we're slowly walking away from questions of clarification into how we're going to deal with the issue, so I'm going to stop it there. But before I do, I'm just going to mention that at my place alone, we have Emmett, Minky, Ofra, Pete, Murphy, and Whitey, who have all been dropped off and who have all been spayed at great expense. So I'm doing my share.
Thank you.
That's Emmett, Binky, Oprah, Pete, Murphy, and Whitey, all been dropped off. So let's move on. And We will, again, thank you very much. Public awareness is crucial in 420,000 cats in 7 years from 2, has to be 2, usually anyway. Okay, thanks for the delegation. Before I go into the public hearings on the noise bylaw exemptions, let's deal with the delegations. And I know with regard to the Firemen's Association, Joan, you alluded to the fact that you may have an action you wish to take at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, it seems that this is a very ambitious and worthwhile event that our Station 1 firefighters are planning in our county. It will bring people to the county, create tourism and economic development. And I think it would be most appropriate if we sponsored the firefighters with a token of $500 to help with the rent of the fairgrounds. And I'm making that a motion, seeking a seconder.
Seconded by Mayor David. Comments or questions to the motion? First John and then Steve.
I would support the motion, but I would like to put a friendly amendment that we move it to the cost of the facility, not just the $500. That might not cut it.
Not knowing what the cost is, I'm not sure whether
To
that's
rent the hall.
friendly or not. Yeah,
We can be specific.
What I'm saying, John, is I don't know whether that's friendly or not, but I don't know what the cost is. Would it be in excess of 500? I don't know. But you're suggesting rather than 500, that the cost of the hall, so let's treat that as an amendment.
Okay.
Asking for a seconder that the cost of the grounds, I guess is what you're saying,
Yep.
be provided by the County of Brant.
Yes.
Do I have a seconder for that amendment? Seconded by Brian. And I had let's deal with the amendment, and then I'll come back to the question. So the amendment is that the cost of the facility be borne by the county in appreciation for the event. So, speaking to the amendment, Joan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Councillor Pierce said the grounds and you said the facility. I believe they're using the grounds and the actual indoor building because they're having that vendor craft show and so on and so forth. So it's the whole works they're renting. And I don't know either how much that cost is. I'm sure it's more than $500 though. Does anybody know?
Okay, rather than shout out a question, you're either for the amendment or you're against the amendment at this time, so I'm going to go to John, who is speaking to the amendment.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to illustrate the likely cost, when St. James hires the fairgrounds for 2 days, and that's just 2 buildings for 2 days, it's nearly $3,000. Just to be aware of it.
2,000.
Speaking to the amendment on bearing the cost of the facility. Steve?
Thank you. The question I was going to ask before fits into this, so I'm very much in support of this event. I am a little bit concerned, and forgive me because this is my first season of going through this community grant process, but it seems to me that our community grant piggy bank was just about empty. So can the veterans fill me in on how we give away money we don't have?
Just before we get into, again, away from speaking to the amendment and engaging, again, you'll have to decide whether you want to support the amendment or not. I will say that grants are at the discretion of the council. This would be a recommendation to council. And recognizing that additional information may be forthcoming before the final recommendation is put at council, if that helps. So John, speaking to the amendment.
Speaking to the amendment, I do not support the amendment as an amendment. I would support it as a separate motion.
If the amendment passes, it will become the second separate motion.
Separate motion.
So I'm going to call the question. It's very clear. And again, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, it's a very worthwhile event, but it's my understanding that the firefighters do collect,
Speaking to the amendment,
yes,
which is to pay for the facility.
they collect fees to help offset the cost of the rental of the venue. And that's why I suggested $500, knowing that probably it was a lot more. But it's being suggested now that the amount be 2,000, just for clarification.
Never mentioned
No,
the price.
there's no price attached to the amendment. The amendment is that the cost of the facility be borne by the county. That's the amendment, and I'm going to call a question. All those in favor of the amendment? Opposed? The motion on the amendment is defeated, and that brings us back to the original motion, which is for $500. I'm going to call the question on $500. All those in favor? Opposed? The amendment is, or the motion is carried. Now, with regard to the Roxy and the Dave and Roxy Moffat's presentation with regard to the cat situation, and I believe Mark was crafting a motion during the discussion.
I'd like to, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion that to direct the County Communications Department to help design proactive professional signage and/or literature that can be used by local businesses and the public if they so choose on this issue.
Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Steve. Are there questions or comments to the motion?
Can I speak to it or no?
Yes.
Okay. I see this as no cost. It's folded into what we already pay the department. We're not guaranteeing the timeline of, flipping it quickly. I also don't think we should necessarily be paying for printing of this, but just the creation and design as a material that can be printed by others if they so choose.
I'm going to call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Okay, we've dealt with the delegations. I'm just going to ask and again reiterate that the recommendation with regard to the Firefighters Association, that is a recommendation to council. There was perhaps some information not before us. I'm going to ask staff to have that available at the council meeting, and perhaps amendments and will be in order at that time. And that would basically clarify amounts and questions. So I'm asking staff to have that information available when I present that recommendation to council, and amendments can be made at that time as well. Okay, we have two public hearings with regard to noise bylaw exemption. Actually, one says exemption and one says exception. I believe the correct is exemption. So, and you will notice under the consent items, there are recommendations dealing with the public hearings. How I'm going to go forward is to convene a public hearing with regard to 4D, the noise bylaw exemption request from Noisemaker Presents Paris Drink Fest. The public hearing is open. The information has been provided by the staff to the committee. Are there any questions with regard to that application by the committee? Seeing none, I will go to the public to ask if there are any comments or questions from the public with regard to the exemption request from Noisemaker Presents Paris Drink Fest, August 15th, 16th, and 17th. Second time and a final time. I see no input from the public on this issue, so I'm going to close the public hearing and ask if the committee would like to move forward with the consent item recommendation at this time. It's moved by Steve, seconded by John. Are there any questions? All those in favor? And that motion is carried, and that essentially provides an exemption for the event, provided council agrees. We'll do the same thing with 4E, and that's the noise bylaw exemption request from the South Brant Legion, which is outside of Oakland. The information has been provided to the committee. I'll declare the public hearing open and ask if committee members have any questions with regard to this event or request. I see none, so I'm going to ask if there are any comments or questions with regard to this application from the public at this time. Seeing none, I'll ask a second time, and I'm going to ask a third time. And I see no information coming forth from the public, so I'm going to adjourn the public hearing and ask if council wishes to act on the recommendation of the consent items with recommendation 7A2, which is in essence approving the application. Moved by Joan, seconded by Brian. Are there any questions? All those in favor? That motion is carried, and that will be recommended to council for approval. And that concludes the delegations, presentations, and annual meetings and public hearings. So let's move on to the minutes of the last CDC meeting of June 10th. If someone comfortable in moving the minutes, and there, David, seconded by John Bell. Are there any errors or omissions? Questions? All those in favor? Opposed? The minutes are adopted. And that takes us to the consent items. Okay, we have already dealt with 7A, 1, and 2, so they are off the list. That leaves 7A3 as a recommendation, along with 7B items to be received. Does anyone wish to pull one of the items for separate discussion? John?
Just want to comment on
Just,
7.
before you have to comment, you have to withdraw it, and I'll get back to you. So you're withdrawing
B3.
B3. Any other? Joan?
I'd like to pull B5.
David? John?
B4, unless Michael is going to speak to it in his CAO.
B4 is pulled. Any others? None left. Again, the consent items are normally to be received similarly, but if you wish to deal with them otherwise, this is how it's done. So the remaining items, would someone move that the recommendations be recommended and the other items be received? It's moved by Brian, seconded by Mayor David. All those in favor? Motion's carried. 7B3. John.
Not asking for a vote, I'm just glad to see it. Music to my ears. Who could have seen that coming? And I say that sarcastically.
With that sarcastic comment in mind, would someone move 7B3? Moved by Mark, seconded by Brian. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. 7B4, status of corporate initiatives underway. John, you had pulled that.
I would be happy if Michael spoke to them in his CAO report.
Okay, if that makes you happy, then I will ask Michael to do that at that time. So we can move that 7B4 be received. Moved by Brian, seconded by John. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. 7B5, this was David's.
No.
Oh, it was Jones, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The city is requesting on page 2 of their resolution that it be presented to our municipal council with a request to endorse this motion. And I've read this carefully, and I agree with it. I think the government hasn't put stringent enough regulations on cannabis stores, and I support what the large urban mayors caucus in Ontario is trying to accomplish by this motion. So I would like to move, Mr. Chairman, that we, the County of Brant, support this
Do
motion.
I have a seconder? Mark, any questions or comments? Mark?
Yeah, just a comment. There's no lose for us here. We already received something like $80,000 or $90,000 in provincial funding because we've opted in, but this would only help. I mean, I know a lot of us, myself included, we're on the fence one way or the other. This would move a lot more people toward the fence. I don't know if that's the right term. But yeah, it's good. It's good advocacy. It's being spearheaded in part by our neighbors, and I'm happy to support it.
Okay, with that having been said, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of endorsing that resolution? Opposed? Motion's carried. The 7B6, this is David's.
I'd like to move that this item be received and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the next Agriculture, or to the Agriculture Advisory Committee.
Seconded by Brian. Are there any questions? Essentially received and referred. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. And that concludes the consent agenda. And brings us to committee reports. And there are 3 reports with the 8C on the addendum. And the 8C has a recommendation attached to it. So, would someone, let's try and do it this way. Would someone move that the committee reports and the recommendations therein be received and adopted? John and John. Not that John and John, that John and John. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion's carried. That takes us to number 9. We're getting there. These are staff reports from the corporate services. We have, with regard to the background study, with the addendum that was supplied, 7A. Report from Heather. Would someone feel comfortable in moving this to get it on the table before us? Moved by John Bell, seconded by John McAlpine. Are there any questions? Joan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only question I have is the new DCs are going to be paid based on the appraisal of the land values. Is that going to hold up the process? Because, or will the developers come in hand when they come to the county office with 3 validated appraisals to show the county they've determined the proper value of the land on which to pay the DCs?
I'll ask Michael to answer that if he can.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and just a point of clarification, what's being proposed as an appraised value calculation is the yet-to-be finalized community improvement, community benefit, which is for soft services, library, recreational facilities, cultural facilities. The regulations for that new charge have not been developed yet, so in answer to your question, I don't think we exactly know how that's going to translate into actually action. So the development charge, as is presented right now, it's a per unit charge, per unit or per square foot charge as laid out in the bylaw. And the appraised value calculation is another charge that's going to come into effect that you'll see more from staff and our consultant on that as the regulations are enacted and new information becomes available.
Are there any other questions? John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One thing I've noticed in the last few months sitting on a Public Works Committee is that almost every time we put out a tender, we end up with a price that is beyond what our budget has indicated. And my question then to county staff is, have we factored in the overage that we're seeing now into our development charges. I would hate to find that we ask for 100 and find that we need to spend 110, and we could have forecast that based on experience over the last year.
Okay, Heather is coming forward, and as Heather is coming forward to answer the question? Partially. Okay, and then Michael can assist if,
Through you, Mr. Chair, the development charges are a little bit flexible because they are still based on what the actual tender is resulted. So the percentages, even though if it's only in for $1 million and it comes in at 2, then we can adjust it accordingly, like proportionally. Okay?
thanks, Heather. Any other questions? Seeing none, there are 4 operative clauses there. I'm assuming that you want them all at the same time, so I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And that takes us to 9A2, and that's the budget direction. Does someone feel comfortable in moving that recommendation? John Bell moves it, seconded by Steve. Are there any questions? And this is not written in stone, but it is a guideline moving forward. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. And that, I believe, takes us to the general manager's update. Wait a minute, I'm jumping ahead.
No, she said she doesn't have.
She doesn't have an update. I didn't jump ahead. I jumped right past the update. Okay, then let's move to operations. Rob is here with an update.
Through the chair of the committee. Just a reminder to council that on Thursday night this week, there is a public meeting at the Paris Fairgrounds for the Paris Flood Risk Mitigation dossier. And next Tuesday, July 16th, there's a public meeting for the Rest Acres Road, King Edward Street, Powerline Road construction.
Where is it?
Brant Sports Complex. Thank you.
Okay, that was the update. Now we have the Community and Protective Services General Manager's update.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to let committee know that staff are doing interviews this week for proponents for the Brant E-Ride transit system, and intend to bring a report to council to award the contract later this month.
Questions? Steve?
Through you, Mr. Chair, just a quick question. How many applicants were there? Can you tell us that?
Yep. Through you, Mr. Chair, there were 4 that submitted proposals, and we are interviewing 2 at this point.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Development Services.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have anything to report tonight, other than the fact that we will see everybody on Wednesday night, which is unusual. Thank you.
That is unusual, and I apologize. You probably got an email from me inviting you somewhere. All I was trying to do was delete the Tuesday thing, and it happened. So I apologize for my ineptness. I pushed the wrong button. You ever do that? You got to be careful. Yeah. Okay, strategic initiatives. No report. The CAO's office.
It's a lot of pressure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'll get to Councillor Bell's question in a few seconds, and maybe he could indicate which he'd like to speak of. But I do have a few items that maybe address some of them. So first of all, I just wanted to comment this evening. We just passed our new development charge bylaw and background study. It's a process that started last January 2018, so it's not a quick process. And I think I'd like to extend thanks to Robin and Heather and their team for driving that through. It's an enormous project, but very significant for our financial well-being. So, the strategic plan, I actually finished final tweaks on it this morning, sitting at my kitchen table. So, I do have it in a draft form now, and I'm ready to present it to council. So, I believe the council would probably like to get that reviewed before we move into the August break, so I'll be working with the clerk tomorrow morning to see if we can schedule a meeting. We still got a few weeks left here in July. So I've had a few questions about the Brant Safe Street Strategy, which was approved a few months ago, and we've had a few meetings on this, and just at a high level, our operations staff are now in the process of ordering the various pieces of hardware that were attached to that strategy. This is high-demand equipment right now, so it's not the kind of stuff you can just pick up off the shelf, but they are in the process of ordering that, as well as working with our communications team to get the hard signage printed for that. So that's underway. The communication staff are, as I mentioned, working on signage design, and they're also working on the outreach and feedback mechanisms that were part of that plan. So that's coming underway. And the community services staff are working on the Pace Car initiative. And our intent would be to have that ready to go for the beginning of the school season, which we think is a very natural start for that. I think the community value of starting that right around the start of the school season is powerful. So again, it's a team initiative. There's several groups working on it, and I think it's coming together nicely. I think that's. I just wanted also to direct, and actually Councillor Wheat did mention it, but there was the report on the consent agenda regarding the insurance program, and we did receive a very hefty premium increase proposed by our supplier. And so we are looking at some Plan B options as well as further negotiations. So we will be bringing a report directly to Council. That insurance policy expires at the end of August, so we are in a decision frame right now. But we're doing some additional work on that, and you'll receive a fulsome report at the Council meetings. Municipal insurance is one of our most volatile business pieces, and I think all of you are aware of that. So that's my report, Mr. Chair, and I'm happy to answer further questions on my status update report if there are any.
John, you can continue your question.
Mr. Chair. Through you to Michael. So you've touched on a couple of things I wanted to talk about. The Brant Safe Street Strategy. It gets a bit difficult to say that quickly. We should try and say it 10 times quickly. Can you share that with us? I'm conscious of the fact that it's now some months ago since we approved it. There's just a general flow of concern about speeding traffic. There's more on the Public Works agenda tomorrow. And I would like to be able to feel confident that we've got a plan that we can share with the public and not just have it happen on the September, whatever it is, the first day of school. I'd like to be able to put a bit of communication behind it, let people know what we're doing, let them know where we'll be doing it, and the sequencing of events. We have $150,000, I think, was targeted for our budget this year. I'd like to be sure that we actually get out there and spend as much as we can of it.
Okay, let's let Michael make the presentation and answer your question.
Certainly, sure. I mean, the implementation strategy was laid out in the report that you approved in May, and it said we'll be spending almost all the money this year on hard assets, which then we'll have for several years, and then in coming years we'll be going a street-by-street basis. It was a feedback-based deployment, so as feedback comes in, we'll alter the deployment schedule. So again, our soft launch would be in late August. But noting that the deployment that was laid out in the report from May was a staged deployment. So I can recirculate that report, or if you would like, we could draft up maybe a bit of a 2-page executive summary that you could share with residents. That might be helpful.
That'd be very helpful.
Okay, I will do that.
Yeah. If I may just continue on, and I'm just expressing my learning here that municipal government works relatively slowly. So there are two things on here, the Grand River Street North Environmental Assessment and Paris Downtown Master Plan. We've had public information sessions. I'm anxious to actually start moving on again with both of those things. Question to you, are we planning to have further public information sessions, or can we see a time when we bring recommendations directly to Council and in the very near future?
Through you, I think I'll speak to. I think I can probably speak to both of them, but if the general managers want to step in, so I think both are still due to have additional public meetings. Okay, so I'm seeing a nod and a shake. So Grand River Street North definitely has a further public meeting because there's a final solution that has to be presented to the public, and I would assume we would be targeting by the end of the year to do that. Right now, we had a lot of feedback through that, and it's a big, complicated EA, so there's a lot of analysis that has to go in and engineer redesign. Allison's, I think, going to speak to the Paris Master Plan. So she's coming up.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Following the public open house that we had, we did 3 additional meetings with the BIA and the Chamber of Commerce. We met with the downtown merchants one-on-one with one of the staff members and the ward councillors and the mayor. Did that. There were a lot of strong opinions about it, so we wanted to make sure that we gathered as much additional information as possible. That is being incorporated into the plan now by the consultants, and we plan to bring it forward in the September cycle for approval.
In information sessions.
Through you, Mr. Chair, correct. So we've done 3 public open houses, and we've done now a total of 5 one-on-one consultations with area groups. So we feel that we're prepared now to incorporate all that feedback and bring it forward in September.
I'm very pleased to hear it. Thank you.
Okay, I don't know that Joan had a question. Yes, you did.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, 2 questions. The first one was the Brant Safe Streets strategy. The CIO, you mentioned staff is ordering equipment and hope to have that program in place for school start end of August. If you send out an executive summary, as you mentioned, could you possibly include a list of where the special signage that's being ordered is planned to go, so we know? Would that be possible? Because we don't know right now at this
Answer the
point.
question.
Okay. That's the first question.
Through you, Mr. Chair, so we can do that. There was a list attached to the report that provided some initial deployment targets, and it was my intention to start at the top of the list. But then, as I mentioned, it's a feedback generated. The deployment of those is generated through feedback. So we're going to set up a input mechanism. Residents can come in or can email or text into that and say we're interested in this, and we can start building a bigger list, because this is endlessly deployable. It's a mobile. The first strategy is a mobile strategy, moves around the community. So it'll get eventually the 3 mobile systems will get around the entire community. So, but we can, if you would like, we can give some thought to the initial deployments. There's a lot of streets, and but there was a short list of what I would call target streets initially laid out in the reports.
Thank you. I would appreciate that, and I'm sure others would as well, because...
Did you have another question?
Yes, the last one was, when will there be a meeting of the investment committee? We haven't had one in some time.
Through you, Mr. Chair. The investment committee, I don't think, is supposed to meet on a regular schedule. It's only supposed to meet if there's changes. So if there's an interest with council to have the investment committee meet and review the investment, the investment options available to the municipality are very limited. The Municipal Act gives the municipality very little options in terms of what it can do with its money. So there isn't a lot of change to that other than rebalancing. But I can discuss that with Ms. Hewitt, and we can discuss whether there's any need. But if there's interest, we could certainly convene a meeting.
I guess the reason I asked that is, I think I was appointed to that committee, and I have no idea when the existing investments are due to mature, where we have everything invested, what's
Okay,
happening.
we'll leave that with you to update yourself on your own time, and Michael can assist you with that.
And Michael can.
Mark,
Thank
you had a question?
I have 2 quick questions about signs, because they're coming up. One is about safe streets. It came to my attention recently that some schools do have school zone signs in our community and some don't. Is this going to be incorporated into the safe street strategy so that that's more uniform across the entire county?
So it was not included in the strategy. If committee wishes that to be examined, we can do that.
Okay. And then the other one about signs is, and I think maybe this is for Allison, I'm not sure, but she didn't come up to present, so I'll ask it to you and we'll see if she needs to answer it. We approved, I think about 2 cycles ago, signs regarding the extended shopping areas in the core. Since we've been talking about the downtown master plan and how we want to make it more of a district, what is the status of those signs? Because on our walkabout, we were asked several times what the status and timing is for that hard signage.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. So we did detailed design of all the signage, including the broader wayfinding strategy in-house, and that was brought, I believe, 2 cycles ago for approval. So that has been adopted. Right now, we're in the RFP process to have the signs actually manufactured and put up.
So the signs about the extended shopping are put, the BIA came and presented about it, they're put into that wayfinding signage pool?
Correct. We just wanted to make sure that the actual design was cohesive and consistent and have that approved first. So we'll now have it out for manufacturing. So I don't have an exact timeline for that until we get the proposals back, but it shouldn't be long.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that concludes the CAO's report. If you have any other questions, you can do that after the meeting to the various department heads that will be here after the meeting. And we thank the CEO for his update. We're going to move on to communications, and we have a request for streamed committee members, or committee meetings. How do you wish to deal with that? Mark?
I'd like to make a motion to support the idea.
Do I have a second here? Second by David. Comments? David?
Just, I'm wondering about the legality of that, because on these 2 committees are volunteers, residents. We stream ours, but we sign up for it. And I don't know how that would work, so I don't know if anybody has an answer to that.
Okay, the motion is to support the request. Speaking to the motion, Joan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, it was mentioned in the last Canesville meeting minutes that that committee would be disbanded. So I'm not sure that it's formally happened, so I don't know. I mean, if we pass this, it might not happen anyway because that committee has finished its work, I believe. So perhaps the staff report's in order.
Well, the resolution is that if indeed there are meetings, they be streamed. If there are not meetings, then you can't stream them, so it's all part and parcel of the resolution. So speaking again to the resolution, Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not supporting the resolution, and I believe if you're going to start streaming one meeting, you stream them all. And so the whole format would have to be changed, because I don't think we should be picking and choosing on residents and what they want to see. And I agree with Councilor Miller, as these committees, especially these 2 committees, are half based on local residents or whatnot like that. So I'm not supporting the motion because that's the way I feel.
Any other comments? Again, John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you, and just going on what Brian said there, I've been an advocate since we've put this YouTube in, that every meeting that is in this room should be streamed through YouTube. It's there, and I must agree with what's said in this note here. The equipment's there. Why aren't we using it?
And Mark?
I'd just like to speak in support of the motion. Surprise. I agree with Councillor Coleman, however, that I think we should be streaming every public meeting, especially if it's feasible technology-wise, or at least every public meeting that takes place in a room. The idea that because it has volunteers in the community, a public meeting is a public meeting. We talk a lot about opening up broadband opportunities for people in rural areas. We talk a lot about increasing the ability to communicate, and we talk a lot about getting more people involved in the meetings. If a presentation was here, meeting by meeting, saying we should stream more of them, I would support every single one of them. And if there was one about a report about an entire suite of streaming, I would support that too. But this is the one that's come to us at this time. Hey, let's call it a pilot project, support it, and see how it goes.
Any other comments before I call the question? All those in favor?
I was going to comment, Mr. Chairman.
All those in favor, sorry,
Are we going to amend it, though, to include all committees?
no, we're not going to amend it. We're calling the question. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Opposed? Motion's carried. That recommendation will go to council, and amendments can be made at that time. Matters referred by council? None? Other business? None? In camera? Councilor Coleman has an issue as presented on the agenda. Motion to go in camera, moved by David, seconded by John Pierce. And all those in favor? Okay, we will